Welcome back in to another episode of Mindset Monday with me, Matt. I share with you things I find interesting that helped me grow, helped me change, helped me rebuild my marriage, become a better person that I was using when I was getting sober. I've been sitting here for like the last hour stressing that this episode's not going to be good enough. And oh my God, I've got to put out something amazing. And then I remembered it's effing Labor Day and no one's going to hear it anyway. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. So here we go. I wanted to talk about the sunk cost fallacy. The sunk cost fallacy, let's just illustrate it. How many times have you said, I can't walk away because I've got 20 years invested in this relationship and it's all I know? How many times have you done that with your job or maybe something that you own? The sunk cost fallacy can keep us stuck in situations that we really don't belong in. We've got this inherent bias toward time invested, and we feel like we have to get a payoff, some kind of an ROI. I've done the same thing in my life. Chances are you've done it in yours, and recognizing it is the first step to changing it. And then there's actually some other psychological fallacies at play here that are going on inside of us and some ways that we can break free from these things. And I want to talk about those today. I think it can be really helpful. I'm going to try my absolute best to keep this thing really short for my own sake, especially because it's raining outside. It just started raining and I want to go enjoy that. Living in August in Texas, it's pretty rare, right? I'm going to go enjoy this day. But first off, wanted to thank you all. We achieved an amazing milestone recently. We got 500,000 podcast downloads, which is just insane to think about. It took us a year to get our first 10,000. And then 2 years since then, we've gotten 500,000 downloads. And that's just insane to me to think 500,000 people have tuned in to listen to this show. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And it's also kind of sad because it just means that there's a lot of people in a ton of pain who don't have anyone speaking for them. And we will continue to speak for you. We will continue to be your voice. We will continue to bring on guests and build topics that are helpful to you. And I'm just grateful that you trust us. Like, it's one of our life's greatest honors. Truly, I mean that, to be amongst the people that you trust. It's just amazing. If you're not aware, we've got a free Facebook community called Tufo Community, where listeners of the show can engage with other listeners and support one another. And it's really cool. It's totally free. You can find that on our website. While you're there, you can also check out Recovery Rocks. Like, I've got one right here. It's got our logo on the front. On the back, it says, "Thank you for being my rock." We've got sweatshirts and stickers and all kinds of different ways to support the show. You can buy us a cup of coffee. If you look at our link tree, you can support the show in some way if you want. If you don't have that, we would really appreciate a review. A review would be amazing to help more people find this thing. It costs you nothing. That would be awesome. We've also got amazing sponsors that have helped made this show possible. Sponsors like Soberlink. Soberlink is today's sponsor. And if you don't know what it is, it's the world's greatest accountability device. It kind of looks like a breathalyzer. I'm going to get through this as fast as I can so we can get through this and I can get to the rain, but not without talking about something I truly do believe in. I had to rebuild trust the old-fashioned way, which was just change behaviors over a very, very, very long period of time. Soberlink can actually expedite that process. If you're someone like me and your words mean nothing now because you've said it's different this time, I'll be better, I promise, I'll change, and you haven't, people around you need an extra added layer of accountability to show that you're really serious. And it's going to help you in a lot of ways, because the next time you think about drinking, you're going to remember, oh yeah, I've got those people that get instant alerts every time I use this thing, and I don't really want to have that fight. I don't want to let them down, whatever reason it might be. And in those moments where you're just white knuckling it, you do need an added layer. It's really important. But really what it is more than anything, it's a gift that you give your loved ones. It's a gift you give other people because they don't want to have to worry about you anymore. They got their own shit to worry about. They don't need to worry about you as well. They love you, but they don't want to be your babysitter. Take these fights off the table where they're wondering why you're home late, why you're acting funny, and remind them and help them rebuild in their mind what tired actually looks like for you, or a bad day actually looks like, or acting funny is just you thinking too hard about something or worrying about something or having anxiety. So you guys can start to have real conversations to rebuild trust and intimacy rather than just talking about this damn substance, okay? No more searching for bottles or having fights because you've already done the work ahead of time when you voluntarily got the device. It's got facial recognition technology so they can trust who's using the device is supposed to actually the person using this damn thing. It's tamper-proof. It's amazing. And if you're in the situation where you feel like, I'm just done, I'm finished here, I just need to make sure my kids are going somewhere safe, they're there for you in those moments too. It's court admissible in all 50 states and in Canada. and it's trusted by over 200,000 people. Right now, Soberlink is offering our listeners something amazing. You can now rent a device. They have device rental plans. When you sign up for a qualifying plan, like a 1-year plan, you can get this thing for $19 a month. So cost can no longer be a reason you choose not to get one. And since you're an awesome listener of this show, they're going to send you a $100 Visa gift card to apply toward that monthly plan cost as well. Just go to soberlink.com/wheels to take advantage of this offer. Again, it's soberlink.com/wheels. On to the show that no one's going to hear. This is great. I feel like I'm just speaking into the ether. There's like 10 of you, maybe. This is sick. I was really struggling to come up with the topic today. Sometimes I have these moments where I think I've got nothing. I'm just kind of burned out. I just finished a really, really busy month in my day job. And I feel like I need to show up every week and just have some amazing thing. But, I think that consistency, if anything, consistency is what this is about. It's about showing up every week with the message that you do believe in, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Full disclosure, I've hit record. I thought I hit record and I recorded this episode once already. And then I looked over at the mixer and there was a green light, which means I never hit record. So this is my second time doing this, but I'm here. I'm going to do it and we're going to get through this together. And I hope it's better the second time around. Sunk cost fallacy is something I learned about when I was in school. I studied finance and economics, and it's used as a decision-making tool in business. I think Cracker Barrel is probably a great modern example of this that's going on right now. I don't know if you know Cracker Barrel, this, the down-home country breakfast place, recently changed their logo and pissed off, it seems like, everybody, even people who didn't really eat at Cracker Barrel and mess with Cracker Barrel. But they changed their logo and pissed a lot of people off. And they've got a decision to make. I'm sure they've poured thousands, maybe not thousands of hours, but a lot of hours into making this decision. A lot of time is spent into making this decision, and a ton of money, millions of dollars into rebranding and going through this process. And they rolled out this new logo that absolutely everybody hates. And they've got a decision to make. Do we stick with it because we poured a lot of time and money into it? Or do we say, ooh, we were wrong, and you eat the cost? Business, it's really simple. If the return on that doesn't make any sense, if you're going to lose a ton of customers and erase market cap that you'll never get back, you go back on the decision and you just eat the cost. But in relationships, it works a little bit different. We don't have spreadsheets or anything else. I think Mark Manson's got the best take on this that I've read through. Mark Manson's one of my favorites. He's got this on his blog. I'm going to read through this real quick. Sunk costs in relationships. We all know someone, or perhaps we are that someone, who is in a bad relationship and continues to stay in that bad relationship. Neither person is happy. Everybody knows they aren't happy, yet the two people stay. For years and years and years, people hang on. And why? It's easier to fight the sunk cost fallacy in work situations, like with Cracker Barrel, right? It's easier. And financial situations, because you can actually sit down and do the math. But there's no math for relationships. There's no spreadsheet to calculate expected costs of the pain of breaking up versus the misery of coming home every day to somebody you don't want to see. When it comes to emotions, we are terrible at accurately gauging how we will feel in the future and how important those feelings are. For example, we generally overestimate the significance of feeling a large amount of pain today and underestimate the significance of feeling small amounts of pain over years and years. Therefore, we stay in bad relationships. We stay in the shitty job. I'll just give it another year, we say, because another year feels bearable in the moment, whereas destroying our relationship feels unbearable. I think the best way to cut through this is to ask yourself the question, if I were starting today, would I choose this again? In any relationship question, or really any question you ask yourself when you're thinking about moving on or changing, would I choose this again today? And I think you can apply this to your relationship right now and make a decision on that. Would I choose this again today? I think a lot of you would say, no, I wouldn't. And I found your show because we were really trying to rebuild. And the longer I learn about what change actually looks like, the more I realize that there's no chance. But yet you still can't walk away. I think you feel like these last 20 years of your life or whatever it might be are just in vain. Because you've worked so hard at this thing and you truly wanted this thing at one point in your life. But the longer you stick in it, the more evidence you have that very little is likely to change, unless you're serious about that. We've got more episodes than I can count about what change looks like and how possible it is for anyone that's willing to put forth the effort, plus a little bit of luck in the sense that there's still patience left in somebody and there's no contempt in that relationship. But we talked about reasons people can't go last week, but the real reasons that people can't, and why oftentimes telling someone to leave is kind of a privileged take. But the psychology behind why we stick around in bad relationships has really always been just fascinating to me. And I've done this in my own life when it came to work. I've been in a relationship with an employer. I'm the VP of the company, and in a lot of ways I run the business, but I don't own the business, and I cannot stand that. And I don't want to go because I feel like I've put so much effort. We're almost there. We're at the finish line. If I just stick it out a little bit longer, things will change. But I'm kind of lying to myself in a lot of ways. And I realize that. And so for the last few years, I've been kind of deconstructing the beliefs that I've had about this. And I think that applies equally to a relationship. I can't tell you how many times we've gotten the email or the DM that says, I've got 20 years here, or we've been together for 12 years. I can't just give up now. Why not? Like, really ask yourself, like, why not? And then ask yourself, would I choose this again today if I had the choice? If I was fresh, would I choose this situation? The answer is no. But what are we doing and why? And I think sometimes it feels like loyalty, right? Loyalty is a very commendable trait to have. I consider myself a very loyal person, but we can be loyal to a fault at times. And sometimes loyalty can actually be disguised as psychology and as brain science. And so I kind of want to get into what's really happening underneath the surface as to why we find ourselves in situations like this and the million ways we justify making a bad decision to show up every day. I'm not sitting here blaming anyone. I do this shit all the time. I do this every day. I can probably think of a dozen instances in my life where I've bought into this sunk cost fallacy just because I've put time into something. If I just stick it through, like I'm a bit of a masochist when it comes to pain and dealing with pain and thinking that there's some award that you get or something at the end of your life that's like, here lies the guy that dealt with shit for 20 years and here's his award for doing that. It doesn't work that way. Like, there are no awards given. Like, really, the award is the happiness that you feel through your life as you have made decisions that are true to your values and true to you and what you really want, and not how much pain you can tolerate. And I guess it's like some of the old school mentality I was raised with, and I think it can be really beneficial in a lot of ways, but I just run things to extremes. It's kind of the pattern in my life. I'm just really bad at doing that. And I'll run shit to extremes. And this is one of those examples. And I know so many spouses and partners that have done the exact same thing. And it's kind of like the fear of the fear of the future and like what you don't know is scarier than this familiar situation that doesn't even serve you. And you probably know all this stuff, but as it turns out, people much smarter than me have already documented and tested and come up with names for all this stuff. And the first one is loss aversion. We feel losses twice as strongly as gains, and losing what we know hurts more than the hope of gaining something better. There was a behavioral study done in the 60s, I think, on this. And this is kind of a very well-known thing in brain science, is that losses feel twice as bad as equivalent gains feel good. So the feeling of, this is like in sports, I always felt this way. Like, I hate losing more than I love winning. They're different. Like, I cannot stand losing, and that drives me to not lose. I'm not trying to win because winning feels good. I'm trying to win because I cannot stand the way that losing feels. And that includes things like giving up on something. Like, I was so convinced at one point in my life that I could control my drinking and control my use. And I felt like in quitting that venture to try to do that, I was giving up. And the thought of giving up to me was like impossible. It was like admitting defeat. It was like cowering. Like, I was chicken shit. I hated the way that felt, man. I don't know where the hell that comes from, but as it turns out, it's kind of built into us. Like we would rather protect our scraps than to reach for more in life. And I can think of a million ways this is applied to my life, but I think it was specifically when it comes to relationships, we stay in that miserable relationship because the pain of separating and having to unwind our finances and our living situations in our life is scarier than and feels worse than the goodness of moving on and finding something that really does truly serve us, or that person that will truly value us and love us and appreciate us and keep us safe. It's like the devil, we stick in these situations, and it's loss aversion is one of the reasons we do this. And another psychological concept at play is learned helplessness and trauma bonds. Learned helplessness. They did another study. This one's kind of cruel and nasty, but they put shock collars on dogs and they had them go after something. I think it was food, something like that. And they would shock the dog. And they would shock it over and over and over and over until the dog just eventually lost hope and gave up. Just completely. It learned that the cause was helpless. Therefore, there was no more reason to try. I think we can think about this in your relationship, and you've tried a million things to change this. And at some point, you just accept your fate and say, you know what? It is what it is. And I'm just going to deal with it. And I wish things could be different, but the experience of my life tells me that every time I try to do something different, I just get let down. And so you just stop trying. Like, this is a really sad place that a lot of us get to when we just sort of give up hope at all. Not just hope that your relationship can get better, but hope that you could get better. Hope that your life could get better. Hope that your situation at all could ever be brighter. And this is a really sad thing that happens, but this happens. And another reason for this is trauma bonds. Trauma bonds is like spouses and partners oftentimes get criticized for not leaving, like they're stupid or something, like just leave. And there's a lot of times I see this coming, like women get attacked by other women who have left relationships. Like it was just so easy for them. Like the moment someone treats me bad, I just left. I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, fuck off. What is that, man? There are real actual chemical reasons this happens. When you've gone through something really tough in a relationship with someone, like addiction cycles, and then they get sober for a little bit and they're really kind and comforting and they're present, you get dopamine and oxytocin that flow through your body that reinforce those good times. And it's really easy to forget the bad. Sort of works the opposite as what we talked about earlier. But there are chemical ties that keep you in these relationships, and you seek that next good time to forget that bad time, and you stay in the cycle over and over and over and over, and it feels impossible to break, not just because it's familiar, it's because of what you've known or because you've got this sunk cost, but because you are chemically tied to this situation. You can endure months and months of chaos, but you cling to that good weekend or whatever it might be. It's proof that it's going to get better. And outsiders see the dysfunction, but on the inside, it kind of feels like hope. But you're not powerless. You've just been conditioned. And I want you to just know that you've been bonded to believe that you're helpless, but you really aren't. It takes a lot to reframe a lot of these things and unwind these things. And you're not going to hear this episode and be just completely unbound to all these things that have kept you in the situation. What it's going to do is just bring awareness to it, right? If action is the antidote to anxiety, then awareness is the antidote to being asleep and unaware of these concepts and ideas. And knowledge is something amazing. You can't unknow something. Like it's often said in recovery that once you know what recovery is and what it's like, it will ruin your drinking for the rest of your life, because you will know exactly why you do the things you do. And you will have to, it's sort of like the curse of knowledge at that point. It will haunt you in your moments where you're feeling stuck in your old ways, but you won't be ignorant to it anymore. You'll know what to do, and you won't take action on it right away, but it will drive you there at some point. So this could be the first time you start to really consider why you do what you do. And I just hope that the knowledge alone is enough to make you feel like you're not crazy, and you're not crazy. Humans also have status quo bias. So our brains crave predictability. We love predictability. This is where rumination comes from. This is why we get anxious and we just toil over wanting to know answers, because we think if we can control a situation by knowing more about it, then we can be safe. We love status quo. Our brains crave predictability, even in a current situation that might be harmful, because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown of some kind. So it's like better the devil you know than the one you don't. Staying in a dead relationship because at least I know what I've got here. Comfort isn't the same as safe, though, and familiar isn't the same as good. We just are sort of wired this way. And I think about the why of that, right? Like, why sayings like a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush? Like, why is it what we have is so much more powerful than what could be? And why do we settle the way that we do? And I think probably goes back to a scarcity mindset that's kind of programmed into us for survival. If humans were at one point programmed to just always seek what's better, if we were like wired to be gamblers in a lot of ways, like most people aren't gamblers. They're not, like, they're risk averse, loss averse. If we were wired the opposite, there'd be a lot of dead humans. We would leave areas that we survived in for other areas because we wanted something more, and we would die there, and we wouldn't procreate, and we wouldn't be here today. And I think this is still left over in our wiring in a lot of ways. We're wired for safety, and safety is familiar. Familiar doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, though. And what's cool is that it's 2025 and we've got more options than we've ever had and more ways to survive than we've ever had. So we don't have to worry about some of the basic survival stuff. Now we can actually choose, like, higher up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for things that sort of suit us, and like our happiness, and like, what is meaning to me? What is purpose to me? And we can really start to focus on that stuff because a lot of your lower needs are handled at this point. But the wiring's still there, and it shows up in a million different ways. It shows up in the way we stay in jobs that don't suit us, and the way that we stay in relationships that don't suit us. The way that, like, I know for me, like, why it was so hard to give up on the person I was for 20 something years, because it was just familiar. Even though it wasn't working for me, it was scary. It was scary to not know what's next. What if I failed? What if it didn't work? What if I failed and I went back to my old ways, and then everyone got to call me whatever, this failure of a person forever? But I think you always have to be hopeful. And like, what if it did work? What if I was happier? And I've watched other people do it, and you probably have too. I've seen more people than I can count go try to actually do something with their life. And it worked. And it actually effing worked. And they're happy. And they will tell people all day long, do what I did, do what I did. But we think that our problems are different. We think that our problems are bigger. We think that, no, you're not like me because of this, because I've got financial ties, or I've got kids I have to look after, or because our house is paid for, or whatever it might be, because you've known them your whole life. You've been together for 20 years since you were 14, or whatever it might be. We got a million reasons that we do the things we do. But the fact of the matter is that there's always hope. There's always hope for something better. There's always hope for something bigger. And who's to say that it's not equally likely that you do leave and your life gets substantially better? It's just really hard to accept that. I think we have to see more and more stories of that and surround ourselves with those kinds of stories to be reminded that we're not stuck and that we do have options. And our brain is wired to work against us. And so we have to be incredibly intentional and forceful to get on the other side. You can do this in your professional career. I've seen more people than I can possibly count try something new and be like, I cannot believe I waited 20 years to do that. And I've talked to more spouses and partners on the other side of leaving a really bad relationship say, my only regret was staying for as long as I did. Because yeah, it might've been painful, but it wasn't painful for long. And it's so much better now. And you're just shocked at the amount of pain that you can endure. And the reasons why you chose to endure it seems so silly in hindsight, right? So what is the way out? And how can we start to make little bitty changes in our psyche that can drive us toward making a decision? I think number one, we have to identify it and name it. Awareness kills autopilot, just having awareness. So label the trap that you're in. Is it the sunk cost fallacy? Is it loss aversion? Are you in a trauma bond? And when you hear yourself say, I can't leave because I've put too much in, say to yourself, that's my sunk cost fallacy talking. That's sunk cost talking. That's not true. That's this bias that I have inherently. I think you can also have the fresh start filter. That's what we're going to call it. The fresh start filter. Ask, if today were day one, would I choose this again? whether that's this life that you live today, if that's your relationship, if that's your job, whatever it is. Like I can say to myself, if today were day one, would I have chosen my job? F no. I wish I had a time machine every day, like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite. I could go back in time, right? Things would be different if Coach put me in. Things would be different in my life. I would have taken a different path. I 100% would have taken a different path. I think we can always find reasons to be grateful for the lessons that we've learned. And I do think that it's true that everything had to happen in my life for me to be where I am right now. And unfortunately, I'm a slow learner and I learned lessons the hard way, but it didn't have to be this hard. It just didn't. It really didn't. I made it harder on myself than I ever had to be. And if today was day one, I wouldn't do it again. I would not. So write that question on a sticky note. Put it somewhere if you're really struggling. If you know that you need to go, but you've got all these reasons that pull you back, you can actually do something practical, like keep this somewhere where maybe no one sees it. Or maybe if you're living alone, what keeps you from going back is if today was day one, would I choose this? Let's say that you're trauma bonded with someone who cheats on you and they're abusive and they're a shithead and they've never shown you any real proof that they can be consistent for a long period of time, but you want to hold on to that little bit of hope. If today you could go back to that person on day one, what would you say to that person? What would you say to that woman? What would you say to that version of you, that man? Don't do it. Don't do it. Run from this right effing now. You would probably scream something to that effect. Remember that. That's just going to be part of your why. Bit of a nerdy one here, but you can do a future ROI test, like a return on investment test. Don't ask, what have I spent? Ask, what will this give me tomorrow? What will this give me tomorrow? Not based on some gambler's fallacy where you think, oh man, it's going to be the next roll that really gets this, even though you have no proof to show that. Be realistic with yourself. What does the pattern say? That is the most likely thing to happen. So not what have I invested in this, but what will this give me tomorrow? You have to make decisions based on this, off of patterns. And what do the patterns tell you? This is journal prompt here, okay? Let's go with this. If I stay another year, what does my life look like? And if I walk away, what might it look like? If the future payout is misery, stop investing. If your future payout is a life of sacrifice and turmoil and crying to yourself at night and wondering what the hell and how did I get here? You stop investing. Simply put. It's tough to do though. I think you also have to give yourself permission to change your mind. This is something I have given myself my entire life, and Paige and I have really differed on this. She really, really struggles with changing her mind because she feels like once you've been committed to a belief, you have to keep writing it out. Otherwise, people can call you a hypocrite. You can be called wrong. You would have to admit that you're wrong. And that's a really tough place to live because at some point you arbitrarily make a decision and now you have to live with that decision for the rest of your life. Or do what I did and give yourself permission to change your mind whenever you want because you're an adult and you're allowed to do that. What a concept, right? You can reinvent yourself at any point. There's no rule book that says you have to be the person tomorrow that you were today. You can wake up and be someone totally different with different ideas. And people are, they're going to say, well, you didn't always say that. And you're going to say, yeah. And like any rational, reasonable person, as I learn more about situations, I reserve the right to change my mind. I think we look at people who change their mind as weak for some reason. Like we like to point out hypocrisy. It's like as if someone changes their mind, they can't be trusted anymore. But I think it's exactly the opposite. I think that when people change their mind, it's a sign that they're willing to admit that they were wrong about something. And that shows a level of authenticity and humility that we should all aspire to. So when someone changes their mind about something, it's amazing. Now, okay, it's different. Are they being like political about it and changing their mind because it benefits them and they don't actually believe that shit? That's totally different than someone changing their mind based on new evidence. Like this is the basis of what growth really is. It's getting rid of things that no longer serve us. It's acknowledging the sunk cost fallacy of it all and deciding to do something different. You don't have to keep doing the same things that don't serve you. You can change your mind. The cost of that is going to be someone might call you a hypocrite. And this has like become a national sport on the internet. And it drives me absolutely crazy. I can't stand to see this stuff where people get judged and criticized for something they said at some point, when they're openly admitting that they have changed their mind based on new evidence that's come into light, or a new experience that they've had, and they have to go back and quote unquote eat their words. So what? There is no one walking amongst you that has lived their life one way forever and had any level of success doing that. As you grow and you have new experiences that come in your life and new information, you're supposed to change your mind based on that. That's what we're supposed to do. The opposite is, like, what are you protecting? Your ego? Or do you fear being wrong because you feel like you're not allowed to be wrong? Have you been criticized for being wrong? Are you scared to be wrong because of something in your past where your parents or someone in your life has led you to believe that you were only worthy of love because you were perfect in your decisions? And this is something to explore. It's something to start to think about. But you have permission to change your mind anytime that you feel like it. James Clear, another great author, has got this quote. He says, "It's hard to save poor early decisions with good late decisions. The effects of poor choices tend to linger." So give yourself a permission slip. Say, I give myself permission to pivot, to choose differently, to stop paying rent to my past. Or simply put, like I would write, I reserve the right to change my mind. End of story. So yeah, I said we'd be together forever, but I changed my mind. What an idea. Could be anything, a job that you've committed to, whatever. Dude, there's no rule book. There's no contract that you can't break. There's just not. You can change your mind and do whatever the hell you want to do. You're an adult. You have agency. You have autonomy. Make decisions according to what you need in your life. Okay. Breaking the trauma loop. This is another exercise here. Recognize that good moments after chaos are just part of the trap, not proof that something is going to change forever. Now, repeated good moments over a very long period of time are evidence that things are getting better. And that's reason to get hopeful. But 1, 2 are not. They're not. Remember the pattern. What does the pattern say? It's tough to do this, but this is why journaling is so effective, because you can go back and revisit that stuff and you can see the pattern, like clearly identify the pattern. Anytime I work with someone and we're talking about like reasons to get sober, I always, without them realizing it, have them recount their pattern. We talk about the way that they drink, like the way they started, how it progressed and how it got bad. And then we talk about the events in their life that have, been consequential to them. Losing a job, getting arrested, a DWI or DUI or whatever you call it, wherever you're from, divorces, whatever it might be. And then this fallacy, this thought that we can control it and we can get better. And so what we'll do is we'll control it for a little bit, and then something will happen and we'll drink, and then that'll make more consequences to the point where we feel like we need to change, and then it'll get better, and then we drink, and this pattern continues. And I need you to see that pattern. And you can go drink if you want. I don't care. Do what you want, like whatever you feel like you need to do. I will never judge you if you feel like you need to go back out and drink and explore that more. But I just need you to recognize the pattern and understand that no matter what, that pattern will continue indefinitely until you do something about it. Look at the pattern. The pattern, you cannot lie. That is truth. And the pattern of your life and your relationship is truth. And you need to revisit it. And it will haunt you forever. And it should. It can drive change. It's a really amazing exercise, but a rather painful one to do. I think you can re-anchor your identity too. And a lot of the ways we have to sort of reframe this idea that we have to hold on to beliefs just because we've had them. You can do the same thing with your identity. If you've just always prided yourself on being the stable one and being the loyal one, like, you matter too, and your life matters, and the things that you want matter. You can reframe this and re-anchor your identity. Instead of being the loyal one, you can reframe that. Like, I am the one that grows. That's who I am. Write a new identity statement aligned with your values, not just these arbitrary markers that you've given yourself for whatever reason. There's a difference in someone who's being loyal to others and being loyal to themselves and their values. Let's also reverse the what ifs. This is a fun one. Instead of saying, what if I leave and regret it? Ask, what if I stay and regret losing 5 more years? What if leaving gives me the life I've always wanted? Let's reframe hope in a way that is optimistic rather than terrible, because we do have a negativity bias and our brains are just kind of built this way. So to recap all this for the episode that no one will listen to because it's Labor Day, I hope it was helpful for you in some way. We've gone over the sunk cost fallacy and some other traps that we can fall into that really keep us stuck. And we can move forward. We can get out of bad situations. And what you'll find is that we can find some really ridiculous reasons to justify some really consequential decisions that we make. Like staying in a relationship just because we've got time invested, just because my parents did it, just because that's what my religion says. Like at the end of the day, you get one life. This is it. This is not a dress rehearsal for something later. You will be haunted one day. Denzel Washington had this amazing commencement speech in 2011 or 6, one of the two. I'm not sure why those two numbers came to mind, but it's one of the two, I think, at Penn, University of Pennsylvania. And he says, one day you're going to be on your deathbed, and around your deathbed are going to be the ghosts of the people that you could have become, the different decisions that you could have made, and they're going to be mad at you, looking at you saying, you could have brought us to life, but now we have to go to the grave together. You'll never get to know what it was like on the other side because you were scared. You'll never know what it was like to experience that thing that you always dreamed of because of all these different fallacies at play and because of the costs and the time that you put in. You felt like you just owed it to what? Exactly. You get one chance at life. I just want you to live the best version of yours. When we started our show, that was kind of my little attempt at doing something with my life, at making a difference in someone else's life. I always felt like my purpose on this planet, the reason I exist, would be to inspire other people, to change someone's life in some way. And I hope I'm doing that to at least one person. I know I've heard from enough to know that I'm living my life's purpose. And it was scary, but I'm so glad that I did it. 3 years later, I'm so glad that we decided to do this. I'm so glad I don't have to sit on my deathbed and wonder what that would have been like. Because now I know, and I regret absolutely nothing. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm here. And I hope that you take something from this and walk forward in your life, making new decisions. Until next time, I'm Matt, and I'll see you.